This is a great occasion to be here today. Murphy's being here for over 40 years is significant in a lot of ways. It's not just a popular restaurant, but Tom Murphy, his wife, his family, they're intricate to the community, intricate to the fabric of Virginia Highlands. You know, you can't think of this area of town without thinking about Murphy's. The food is great, the people are great, the spirits are great, and he's contributed not only by having and maintaining this business for 40 years, but he has reached out to help the least of these. He's reached out to help many charities around the city of Atlanta over that 40-year period. Just think about the people who've worked here, the people who have matriculated through this restaurant. This is the crossroads of East Atlanta. And so he has been a principal, central figure in the Virginia Highlands community, and his restaurant has expanded that, has expanded, you know, what's in his heart to all of the rest of us.
We're out here downtown today celebrating the completion of 4 projects that were voted on during our Downtown Decides participatory budgeting process. And we're riding a bike from one location to the other to do a ribbon cutting in each of the 4 transportation projects. Some of the projects we're celebrating today are new bike lanes in the Central Business District, the painting of an island in the middle of the road yellow so people can see it, and some new trash cans in the Sweet Auburn corridor. This is the direct result of citizens participating in this program. This is the first time we've done participatory budgeting in Atlanta, and it puts the power directly in people's hands on how tax dollars are spent, and we're just thrilled with the response and the success of the program so far.
Chastain Park is the largest park in the city of Atlanta. This is the last piece of the Chastain Park path, and it's taken over 25 years since it began, and we are here at a groundbreaking to celebrate this last piece getting ready to start. You know, the phrase, it takes a village. Well, it certainly takes a village here. There have been lots and lots of organizations who have helped make this happen. I think there are over 500,000 people and probably about 250,000 dogs that use the path each year. It's an asset that is used by many, many people, from young people walking along to people on bikes to people running and exercising and folks coming after work to enjoy a stroll in the park. And the path has really been a catalyst for revitalizing the park, and so lots of park partners here today with NYO and the horse park and the pool, and it's a wonderful time to celebrate together.
Today we're here for an unveiling. We're unveiling an urban farm, one of the biggest urban farms that will be based here in District 3. And we're here to address the food insecurities that this district has faced for decades. And I think what's so innovative about this idea is that we've partnered with Washington High School, with Greenleaf Farms. We're going to be partnering with the American Heart Association to bring together an ag STEM program that's going to cultivate new, young, fresh blood in urban farming. That's going to really be focused on how we can move together as a community in addressing food insecurities within Atlanta. It is time that we take action in our own hands and we start cultivating innovative opportunities like an urban farm, like a grocery retail model where we can pipeline produce into the communities and really help lift up and support our residents.
One, two, three, cut.
Hooray!
Yeah.
This is called Centennial Yards, formerly the Gulch, and of course this whole development was passed in 2018 by the Atlanta City Council. So this is one of the first pieces of development. There's about 15 different parcels that will eventually be developed over the next 10 to 15 years. So the first portion here is at Ted Turner Drive and Peter Street, which is in the Castleberry Hill neighborhood. And there's 162 apartments that have been rehabilitated to its natural historic beauty. So this is an old building that was probably built somewhere around 1910. There are studios and 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. So this development is actually the gateway to further development in Southwest Atlanta. Castleberry Hill has really been flourishing along with other areas in Southwest Atlanta. We're just very excited about the development that's happening in this area. It's going to anchor this end of the lower end of downtown Atlanta from Marietta Street, coming back to Castleberry Hill and going further southwest. So this is something that's very exciting, and we're looking forward to more development that will take place.
We're here today at the Maggie Russell Tower to help to provide, along with our partners GenCare and their Executive Director, Councilwoman Carmelita Gum from South Fulton, 80 COVID-19 vaccines for seniors who are here in the building. There are over 400 residences in the Maggie Russell high-rise, but there are about 80 folks who had not received their COVID-19 vaccines. So a lot of the seniors, aren't mobile, meaning they may not have a car or access to transportation, to help them to get vaccinated, to protect them and others who already have been vaccinated in the building from the scourge of COVID-19. It's still important to adhere to the CDC guidelines so that we can beat this pandemic. We are so close to the end of it. Millions of adult Americans have been vaccinated, but we need every American to step up, get a shot in the arm, because it protects yourself, it protects others, it protects our community. The city of Atlanta is still in phase 2. We would like to open up. We can't do so until we have the results in the broader community that our infection rate is beneath 5%, that people are still wearing masks and socially distancing, that everybody is getting vaccinated. The more we do that, the quicker we can go back to normal.
Now, therefore, we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Atlanta, who hereby proclaim this day, May the 22nd, 2021, as Tom Murphy Day in our fair city. In witness thereof, we cause the seal of the city of Atlanta to be here into effect. Congratulations.
We're here today to celebrate Tom Murphy and 40 years of his restaurant Murphy's in the heart of Virginia Highland. But that's unusual these days to have a business owner, locally owned, lives in the area for that period of time. And, he serves a fantastic meal. It's a place people come for baby showers, for brunches, for weddings, and he's been tremendous in giving back to the community as well. I'm just so excited that Tom says that they're back to their pre-COVID business. People are out and about. He's making it a safe place to eat. I've been back here, and it's one of my favorite places, and I hope people will get out as they feel comfortable and back into their local restaurants.
Glad you could join us for this edition of Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson.
Major retailers, Target, CVS, and Kroger end mask requirements for fully vaccinated customers. Officials with Target said in a statement it will no longer require fully vaccinated guests or team members to wear face coverings in its stores. The newly updated guidance has been met with a little confusion. We caught up with Dr. Robert Bernarczyk. He's an associate professor of global health and epidemiology with Emory University. Dr. Bernarchek says he's concerned that some might take advantage of what he describes as a loose enforcement of the new CDC guidelines and go unmasked, even if they're not fully vaccinated.
We've seen that a lot of places have indicated that they're going to rely on the honor system for individuals who are choosing to not wear a mask, especially for indoor settings, that honor system may break down if individuals are not, fully open about their vaccination status.
Dr. Bernarchek says right now we still have about 65% of eligible Georgians who are not fully vaccinated. This offers the potential for new outbreaks of COVID-19 to occur as more people start coming together in different settings, mixing with different people other than those that they may have been quarantining with or staying isolated with over the course of the pandemic so far. According to the CDC, 19 states and Washington, D.C. have now fully vaccinated at least 50% of adults. More than 3.5 million kids under the age of 18 have received at least one shot. The CDC is expecting two important pieces of data within the coming months. Officials told lawmakers they hope to have more clinical trial information on COVID-19 vaccines in pregnant women this summer, and children as young as 6 months old by late fall or by the end of the year. These are important groups, especially pregnant women, as experts say they tend to have more severe outcomes with the virus.
Are you all there?
Good afternoon, council member.
Okay, you know what, Ms. Linda, I've been talking for the last 2 or 3 minutes, and apparently you all just unmuted my phone. So let me start again. Okay. Good afternoon. This is Councilmember George Shepherd, and I am chair of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. We're here for a special work session with the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, the Office of Fulton County Sheriff Department, Mr. Patrick Labatt, and the discussion is on the Atlanta City Detention Center. So we will officially call the meeting to order at this point. I also want to say, in terms of decorum, if you're not talking, please remember to mute your phone if you're on this call so that we don't hear the background. And with that, Ms. Linda, I will introduce you as the legislative staff who will be facilitating our meeting this evening. Could you please go ahead and read our work session and introduction and remote public meeting statement, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Today's Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee work session will be conducted remotely as advertised and in accordance with Georgia Code Section 50-14-1. The public may access the meeting conference toll-free by dialing 877-579-6743 and entering conference ID number 831-591256. This information was also posted in a public notice that was published on the City Council website at citycouncil.atlanta.ga.gov and in a communication that was distributed on Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlanta.ga.gov, Facebook and Twitter pages at ATL Council, and the Council's YouTube channel. All persons present on this meeting conference page are requested to please mute your phones and speakers. Meeting participants wishing to speak must be acknowledged by the committee chair. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
And I'm going to re-emphasize that again. If you're on this call, please mute your phone if you're not talking. We can hear background. I've already begun to hear some background noise. Please mute your phone, please, if you're not talking. So with that, I'm going to ask for you to do a roll call, Ms. Lindo. Would you please do that? In terms of who's in attendance.
Yes, Madam Chair. We have on the call Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, Councilmember Winslow, Council President Felicia Moore. We have Councilmember Howard Shook, Councilmember Antonia Brown. We also have with us Commissioner Liz Hausman. We have Commissioner Bob Ellis. We have Vice Chair Ms. Natalie Hall. And we have Fulton County Sheriff, Mr. Patrick Labatt. And Councilmember Westmoreland has just joined us as well, Madam Chair. We also have from the Mayor's Office, Mr. Justin Johnson.
All right. Thank you. Do we have anyone? Mr. Arrington, is he on with us today? He is not on yet. Bob and Arrington?
Not as yet, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you. As you watch this, Ms. Lindo, if you see other folks come in, please let us know so we'll know who's present also. Thank you. So let me move forward. The purpose of the work session this evening, for the last several months in the city of Atlanta, we have been in this discussion with the mayor, Mayor Bollin, on the closing of the Atlanta City Detention Center. It has been a very vetted and thorough discussion with pros and cons back and forth in terms of the need to close the detention center and the pros and cons around that. The city council has actually worked diligently with the mayor's office and council and our public safety committee and all members of council to really have a thorough discussion on the pros and cons of that. What we finally came to in terms of that was, as we had this discussion, was that Patrick Labatt, the sheriff of Fulton County, reached out and also talked to us, and also Mr. Pitt from Fulton County Commissioner's Office, to talk about the need for the Atlanta Center, for our Atlanta City Detention Center, and the fact that if they could possibly purchase it or lease it. more so, originally it was to purchase it. There was some pushback from the mayor's office. What the mayor finally did was actually go into a discussion with Mr. Pitt as the commissioner and the mayor. And they had been talking back and forth for quite some time in reference to what could be done in terms of possibly an IGA or intergovernmental agreement or something we could do to collaborate. I'd like to say as chair of the Public Safety Committee that one of the things that I have realized as the chair is that Fulton County actually locks up a lot of folks in our jails from the city of Atlanta. Fulton County also has a lot to do with what happens in terms of the city of Atlanta. To that point, as we looked at it, one of the things we realized is that while we have an empty jail over here, we also know that Fulton County jail is overcrowded. So to that point, as we did a tour of our jail along with the jail from Fulton County, we really saw that concern up close and really personal as folks who went on that tour. And for me, as an elected official with the city of Atlanta, but also I'm a resident of Fulton County, I saw where there should be a need how we can collaborate in terms of working to see if we could come up with something that would be a due diligence in terms of serving both Fulton County and the city. I also would say that's very important this time because of the fact that right now our crime is higher in the city. And as we look at this, we need to be looking at it holistically, not in silos. It says Fulton County does this, Atlanta does that, and never the two shall meet. And if we have a jail system that we have, and Fulton County is in need of it, as we began to have these work sessions among ourselves, the question that came before us was that why would we not consider looking at how we could collaborate? The mayor goes, she had a task force that looked at closing the jail. And her whole purpose in terms of closing the jail was for it to make it an equity center for diversion. The mayor's office is going to talk about that in a few moments. But as we look, as a council, we're at a point where we want to have a discussion around this to determine if that is the best need for us at this point is to actually close the jail or begin to have another discussion in terms of how we can collaborate. The mayor's office has shared information with us in terms of some of the discussions between herself and Mr. Pitt's office. You all have seen some of that document. And so we're at a point today where we ask, because it seems to be at a point where there was an impasse where they can never come to a conclusion. So because we as a council really want to work to see how we can really make this work, we want to have a work session today to talk about this. And so that is the purpose of this work session, is to begin that discussion, look at what's happening specifically in terms of our city jail, look at what's happening with Fulton County Jail, also listen to what Fulton County commissioners have to say in terms of their position on it, and hope that we can come up with something that will be a win-win for everyone. So with that, I'm glad that we're having this work session at this point. I'm going to now stop talking and move forward with presenters. So we will move forward. Our next item on the agenda is that we'll ask the mayor's office, Mr. Chastain Johnson, to come forward and talk about the mayor's position on this particular issue. Mr. Johnson, are you there?
Yes, Chairwoman Shepherd. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, outstanding. Well, thank you. My name is Justin Johnson, Deputy Chief Operating Officer, and I support the public safety agencies, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to share with you all and speak to you all on today. Just a little bit of a context. What have we done to date? And so to date, we've engaged with Fulton County staff leaders, specifically in the county manager's office, to identify opportunities for partnership, as you described, based upon their previously developed jail population reduction strategy. We've also developed a draft letter of intent as a starting point for additional discussions. The mayor has also met twice with Chairman Pitts to discuss the draft letter of intent. Unfortunately, we've received no formal response on the proposed partnership. Unfortunately, no proposed edits. And unfortunately, no proposed areas for compromise. We've also continued working with a variety of partners within Fulton County on these partnership opportunities, and we've received a federal grant, which there was much press about some time ago, to collaborate on these opportunities. And specifically, and I think this really leads to a couple of questions that were raised by several council members. I believe Chairwoman Shepherd, you asked a question, and so did Councilwoman Winslow, about service offerings that could potentially take place in ACDC. And so the city continues to engage with experts through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration to build a competent crisis care system, community of practice. And through this partnership in the community of practice, the city is working with partner organizations to develop a community-wide plan to reimagine the crisis system of care and to develop additional responses and infrastructure for behavioral health emergencies. And we certainly recognize what our area of responsibilities are based on the city's charter, but our responsibility is say, hey, well, what can we contribute, especially from an infrastructure standpoint? And those partners include Fulton County Courts, representatives from Commissioner Ellis's office, so we're very appreciative to have that participation. Grady Health System, Fulton County Department of Behavioral Health, Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, PAD, or also known as the Policing Alternatives and Diversion Initiative, Partners for Home, Emory Healthcare, and to name a few. And I'd certainly be remiss if I do not acknowledge the phenomenal leadership of Kristen Schilling as well as Judge Robert McBurney. In an effort to have the best and the brightest stakeholders, we are also working very closely with Bloomberg and Associates, specifically Ms. Robin Reed, who was one of the critical partners helping us with this effort. And as we continue this work, we've certainly spoken with many of the stakeholders that I previously mentioned, and we worked through a list of potential services that conceivably can be offered on a temporary basis that could potentially be located or co-located within ACDC. And again, we're talking about on a temporary basis. Services such as a sobering room, behavioral screening and needs assessment, post-crisis care, housing assistance, case management, non-emergency medical, even amenities such as a pantry, laundry room, shower. These amenities that absolutely can help give an opportunity for folks to have and regain their dignity as they work through the day-to-day challenges. And so at this point, we're really just thinking about, where do we go from here? So we would absolutely ask, and we would like the opportunity to work with the appropriate parties at Fulton County to move forward on the proposed partnership. The draft letter of intent clearly articulates a reasonable basis for further discussion based upon Fulton County's own defined strategies and discussions with their own professional staff. And with that said, I would like to say thank you to Chairwoman Shepherd for giving me this opportunity and members of the committee for providing me with this opportunity. I look forward to listening to the discussion today.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. What we're going to do is move through all of these presenters, and then we're going to come back for discussion from our colleagues. The next person that we would like to ask to speak is our Sheriff Department, our Sheriff, Mr. Sheriff Patrick Labat.
Hey, Madam Chair, I did want to just let the public know that I'm on the call, and so is Marvin Aronson from Fulton County. We were in like a holding pattern, but Andre Dickens and County Commissioner Marvin Aronson are both on the call.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dickinson. Thank you. I just asked about Mr. Aronson, so thank you. Thank you. All right. We're now Mr. Labat, Sheriff Labat.
So first of all, Chairwoman, thank you so much for your leadership. I am disappointed that, and maybe I'll chalk it up. I certainly am appreciative of the opportunity. However, when I heard our Deputy COO mention that the county has not responded, that is absolutely not true. The county has responded both in writing and verbally, but I will leave that up to the county to speak to, given that I have not been contacted by the mayor's office at all. And so with that in mind, the one person, and I've said this quite plainly. Our law department has opined on it. The one person that has jurisdictional operation over not just the jail, but the detainee population is the county sheriff. And so while the administration has reached out to Chairman Pitts, only from my perspective, that does not include, and I certainly don't speak for the Board of Commissioners, but I've had several conversations about their exclusion, as well as the chair, my exclusion in the conversation. So to put it quite frankly, I've done the presentation, I've given tours, those that have accepted it both on the council level as well as the commission level. I do want to personally say thank you for your leadership and thank you for having these continuous conversations. I have a duty, unlike any police chief in the county, unlike any police chief in the state. As the sheriff, I have a duty, a responsibility. I took an oath to treat people humanely. And at the time I gave the presentation, there were nearly 300 people sleeping on devices we call boats, to which you, Madam Chair, had an opportunity to come see. We currently, as of right now today, we have 267 of the same detainees sleeping on the same devices, or those devices as it were. The jail in and of itself, as many have openly admitted, was overcrowded the day that we took office in the 80s, on the day that we took possession and moved from the old Jefferson Street. But that said, the county has been very responsive. The county has, in my conversations with the Board of Commissioners as well as Chairman Pitts, the county manager, Dick Anderson, we have been very direct about what our needs are. And we need 500 beds. Now, we can work programmatically internally to figure out how we help the mental health population, how we help the juvenile population, or what we call the young offender population, how we help our female population who've been housed out at the South Annex. So we've been very direct and very responsive about what our needs are. And here's the other piece, and I'll chalk it up to our Deputy COO maybe entering the picture a little late. One of the recommendations, or as when the mayor said the ball was in your court, or your being the county court, one of the things that was very evident, if anyone had done their homework, the people that actually could take advantage of the pre-arrest diversion or that program that the mayor wanted to bring to fruition at the county facility was less than 10. Out of nearly 3,000 inmates, less than 10 people would qualify based on that program. We are a pretrial, mainly pretrial services jail. We have a duty to house people humanely, and I mention that because I took an oath, as I said, and I don't take that oath lightly. And so with that in mind, we've been very responsive. I do appreciate all the council members and all the Board of Commissioners that have stepped in to say we have to do a better job of looking beyond where we are right now. Crime is absolutely out of control. We have a blanket order, much like the signature bond order in place at the city level, that quite simply says that those people supposedly that commit nonviolent crimes are back on the street and can sign their own signature bond. But it puts us, again, in that simple rotation. So, it is absolutely incorrect that anyone from the administrative side would lean to say that we have not responded. We've been very responsive. And so, I stay in my lane. I am the sheriff of the largest county in the state of Georgia, of the 159. We daily take in upwards of as many as 100, 150 detainees. We're sitting less than 3 miles down the street from the jail, less than 2 blocks away from the jail and the courthouse itself, with a facility that nightly houses 30 people on average. On some days, there are 14, 15 people there. And we're sitting there with 1,300 beds that we could utilize, because at some point, regardless, at some point we have to either make a determination that we're going to in a civilized fashion, treat people more humanely, or we're going to go year after year, as we've done, over a 3.5-year period and do nothing. We've gotten to a space where even those that I sat on the task force, let me be clear, I sat on the task force that had a predetermined outcome before any recommendations were made. I went to every single task force meeting. Even after I retired from the city of Atlanta, I continued to go to the task force meeting. So we had a predetermined direction before the actual recommendations were even made. And so to that extent, I really have to thank you and the leaders that have said, let's really have a tough conversation around what next looks like. And it does not have to be one way or the other. With 500 beds that we're requesting, there's still opportunity. There's still opportunity with 400 or 500 other beds to do other things internally in the facility. I've said this quite openly and honestly. Those that are, hard-working women and men over at the city of Atlanta that are able to transfer to the sheriff's office and continue to do the job they do, no one has to lose their job. So I just want to be clear, and I don't know where we got lost in some of the conversation, but my line of communication is always open. I have not received any communication from the administration, even since the resolution has been put in place. So with that in mind, I look forward to continuing to have a conversation. We just have to settle ourselves at a level of reality that says the city has the space. And I've even said in a prior meeting back in February, if someone from the city side says, look, we're going to blow the building up next week and we're going to exercise option 1, or we're going to move into a space where we're taking in everyone and providing these services, these things will take as many as 6 to 8 months to build, programmatically put these things in place. We have an opportunity here to get people off the floor, treat them, and let me be clear, 90% of the people in the Fulton County Jail are accused of a crime. The sentence population, again, won't even meet the qualifications that was put forth that I found out about publicly, not in anyone's conversation as we stood. So with that in mind, I will step down, be quiet, and stand by if there are any questions from my perspective.
Thank you, Sheriff Labatt. We will now ask for, I believe, Fulton County Department of Commissioners, and I understand Mr. Pitts will not be here today, and I believe Mr. Arrington will be actually in his stay. So, Mr. Arrington, are you there? Marvin Arrington, Jr.?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chairwoman Shepherd. Very happy to be having this conversation today. Thank you. Thanks to everyone that took the time to participate and who is concerned about this issue. I think our sheriff, has laid the problem out from my side, from the county commission side. And I don't know if there are any other commissioners on board, but we need the space. We were previously under consent order regarding population, our jail population. We got our jail population down to 2,000 people. And at that time that was around 2018, I believe, when the council decided to, stop using the jail or arresting people. And so since that time, we've gone from 2,000, I think we're close to 3,000 people or so now in a daily jail population. Part of that may be due to COVID, but certainly part of that is because about 52% of the people in the jail come from the city of Atlanta. So we are hopeful that there is a way that, we can use the jail. I don't know that we are necessarily in a position to purchase the jail, but I think that we may be able to use some of our COVID dollars to provide wraparound services. In my mind, I would love for the city to allow us to be able to use the jail, and then we could maybe match the city $20 million or $50 million towards building a new equity center. Imagine if we could announce a $100 million equity center to provide wraparound services. To me, that would send a strong statement. But mainly right now, short term, we need relief to get these people off these boats in the jail. And, certainly whatever you all can do, whether that's a short-term lease or long-term lease. My understanding is the cost for building a new jail and time frame for doing that, puts us more in probably a 5-year time frame, 5 to 10 year time frame in order to do the bonding for that. I think the number, and the sheriff can correct me if I'm wrong. What was the number? I don't know, maybe it was like $60 million or something to build a new jail. So whatever short-term relief that we can get from the council would be would be very appreciated. And, again, we're here, we have been doing a pre-arrest diversion program, but my understanding is that we've only been doing that, in one council district. I remember Kwanzaa and I went to Seattle, and, we started out with a pilot program doing it in his district. I know we have increased our funding for pre-arrest diversion, and I believe the city has done the same thing. But I think, we're all interested in providing mental health services to those that need mental health services. But certainly, given, the amount of shootings and murders and just general crime that's going on right now, some of these people need to be in jail. And so, we need more space to house them, and certainly you all have a space for us. I would love if we could get it for $1, or, $1 lease. Again, I think we could match the city in any money that it wants to put towards an equity center. But in the meantime, we've got to have, or we really need these extra beds.
All right. Is that it, Mr. Harrison?
Yes, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go into Q&A now. Now, I've got to figure out how we're going to do this in a way that we can recognize people whose hands are raised. And so, Ms. Lindo, I don't know how we're going to do this, but what we typically do is we have a group text where we say, I have a question, but I'm not sure if the commissioners are able to access that. And so, Ms. Lindo, could you send them my number so that if they want to ask a question, they can text me and say question and put their name behind that, please? And if anybody has questions, please text me and I will recognize you. I'm going to, if everybody clear on that, and also, by the way, it's being joined by Ms. Marcy Overstreet from District 11. She's with us now. Have we missed anybody else who's joined? Anybody from the commission who's joined that we didn't recognize earlier? Thank you. So, please, Ms. Lindo, are we straight in terms of how we want to communicate? Ms. Lindo? Okay, she's done answering.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry I was muted. Anyone who wishes to speak, just simply press *5 and they will be unmuted.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I'm going to start with a question for Sheriff Labat, can you, got a question for you. I just want to get clarity on something you just said a moment ago. You talked about the fact that you needed 500 beds. And those 500 beds, of course, what we offered was looking at your bed, looking at what you all have. And we talked about the fact, Ms. Erickson just said, 52% of the city of Atlanta, people who are there are from the city of Atlanta. And I've heard so many different numbers that I'm not sure what the percentage is at this point. But the question is, this is about when you talked about beds that you need, I also was really talking more about taking some of the folks who were in the reentry program, people who had misdemeanors over at Fulton County, folks who were ready, diversion people, because we know you all have some diversion programs, any of those folks who were being held, and use that as a mechanism to actually alleviate some of the overcrowding, so that would give you more space. If we took those folks from you all and put it over there. Now, I don't know when you were talking about you need 500 beds, was it specifically you said you need 500 beds just for jail people, or were you talking about specifically us using the program? This is how I've explained it. Could you give clarity to that for me, please?
The question. First, Madam Chair, let me thank you for the question. And let me clear up. Apparently, some people aren't aware of our population. Our population is not made up of misdemeanors. Everywhere we've been able to work with our Solicitor General, Keith Gamage, on our misdemeanor population and the judges, we have done so. We have a standing order from Judge Edline for nonviolent criminals that, for misdemeanors, that they would release bond as well. So the population is made up of some of the worst of the worst. So there is not an opportunity.
You kind of, Mr. Labat, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if you can adjust your speaker so you're not breaking up a little bit. Can you help us with that?
Is that better? Hopefully that's better.
Keep talking.
So our population, much to many people's misunderstanding, is not made up of misdemeanors. We have mostly violent and felony charges. So where we have had an opportunity to work with our Solicitor General, Keith Gamage, we have done so, and we have had sentences adjudicated by state court judges accordingly that have allowed us to help reduce populations from that perspective. So the population in question, and the reason I asked for 500 beds is really twofold. We, again, as I mentioned, with nearly 300 people sleeping on the floor, we fully anticipate with the summer coming that crime will increase 2- and 3-fold. So we need to be able to, again, treat people like they're human. Where there are mental health opportunities, there are specialized units in ACDC that we can take advantage of. The 4 Northwest, for instance, is a dual-purpose housing unit that can house general population as well as maximum security population. So hence, making the bed space available to us more prolific, an opportunity that we can then maximize more space at 901 Rice Street. So it is and not a unusual request, and it is not a new problem. It is just what we have now is new leadership in charge, and it is time for us to work together to figure out how we do that. But to make sure I answer your question directly, it is more centered around the actual jail population. I got 200 plus people charged with murder alone. So it is, we have some persons that have been deemed incompetent over the years that have been incarcerated in a pretrial facility with mental health concerns or issues dating back to 2015. So it's not a popular position to be in, but it has just been completely transparent. We need the bed space. We anticipate crime over the summer will go up. We will do everything we can from the sheriff's office to help mitigate that. We've begun to partner with APD as well as the city of South Fulton and several other northern cities, to the north of Buckhead, to make sure that we do our job to continue to push crime down. But we simply need the space and to be restricted. There is no reentry program fashioned at this point because of COVID that will allow any of our participants to take advantage of that. And if you look at it, I mentioned this earlier, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but when we did an analysis of what was offered via the media, 150 bed spaces, we had less than 10 people that qualified and met that criteria. And without saying we house the worst of the worst, we house those that mean no good, at least have been accused of meaning no good to our city and to our county as a whole. And so we're obligated to do so in a humane fashion, and that's the piece. If we're not going to, we've stood by for 3.5 years, we've not moved the needle, and if we're not going to move it in the next 6 months to a year, and instead of having a building that's shuttered, we simply could use that space. And so I agree with Commissioner Harrington on his assessment. I will let everyone know that the bonding process, as well as building a facility the size of the one we need, is really more closely aligned with $400 to $500 million and the process. So again, I hope that answers the question directly and allows me to debunk a few myths involved. But it is, we don't have misdemeanor charges that we can just bring over to 254 Peachtree Street and have them serve as misdemeanor or minimum security.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to follow this up, and then I just like to say that Ms. Hall is right after me. She's asked to speak, and I'm going to let her speak in just one moment. When we talk about bonds, and I know there's a difference between City of Atlanta bonding process, and we do signature bonds. And I know Fulton County, does Fulton County have signature bonds? I don't know if you can answer that, or are their bonds still cash bonds, or do you still use cash bonds?
So we still use cash bonds, but there is a standing order by Judge Edline, and it was perceived by Judge Edie prior to me taking office, that especially in this emergent situation with respect to COVID, those that have nonviolent crimes are released on a judicial release bond, which is the same as essentially is the same as a signature bond. And so it's really an opportunity for individuals that can't afford to get out. And so everyone else, we do focus on cash bonds. And if I may, I want to make sure we understand that reentry program that I started, the PAC 3 program, preparing adult offenders to transition through training and therapy, that was predicated upon a partnership with the state of Georgia. So those detainees came from the state. We recognize that 85 to 90% of those incarcerated, nearly 3,000, 4,000 people a year that are released, are coming back to the Atlanta metro area. And our target was to make sure that those people became city workers, had city jobs, etc. So this is not a reentry program friendly environment at this point. So we are working with our judges to make sure that where they see fit and there are opportunities, that we take advantage of those opportunities.
Thank you. I have other questions, but I want to hog all the questions, and so I'll come back and wrap around. But I think I heard you say very clearly is that when you're looking at the jail in terms of your needs at this point, it is really jail space you need more so than programs, but you need jail space at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Also, I read an article that you were also negotiating something with Cobb County. Is that also you in the process of negotiating something with Cobb County or reaching out to them?
We are indeed, because we need the space We absolutely, it's not unusual. As a matter of fact, I will ask those council members that have been on the council and led for quite some time to remember, even our Board of Commissioners, when I was still at the city, we actually housed Fulton County detainees. And so the city was able to put monies back in their coffers because of it. So this is not an unusual ask at all. Both agencies, both the City of Atlanta Department of Corrections and the Fulton County Sheriff's Office are able to do it. We've done it before. So, and let me also debunk the myth. This is not mass incarceration in any way, shape, form, or fashion. What I am asking for is that people that have already been arrested be allowed to be treated like they're human, and we simply need the space. So every conversation that I've heard from many different aspects of the administration that would like to say they don't want to further mass incarceration, this is absolutely not mass incarceration. These individuals have been arrested, have been accused accordingly. In many instances, been the first appearance. I do want to take an opportunity to say thank you to the Board of Commissioners as well as our judges and the administration at the county for being very forward thinking about some other opportunities as we move through COVID to see how quickly we can speed up or reignite the court system and the environment, and hopefully we may not have this problem in 6 months to a year. But right now, today, we have this problem, Madam Chair, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity to continue the conversation to figure out how we alleviate this problem. And I will tell you, like every other facility in the city and in the county that has been shut and not used, there's 2 housing units over at the City of Atlanta Department of Corrections. And I would ask that the commission or this task force ultimately take a look at how it's being utilized, what it takes to restart from an engineering perspective, some of the maintenance. Look, I did this for 10 years. I was chief for 10 years. So I was intimately involved in that space. So I will tell you that, one, the facility is in good shape. 2, figure out what additional costs and burdens may appear or arise as we enter into doing nothing with that facility. So I'll stand by because I know there are other questions, and I appreciate you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall, you're next.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Shepherd, for allowing me to speak. As the Vice Chair of the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, I do want to raise a couple of things that we have not discussed. And I know that, the city of Atlanta has a strong mayor form of government where the mayor has veto power, but at Fulton County, we do not have that structure. So the chair is 1 vote out of 7, same vote as any of us. So you do need 4 votes in order to pass anything. And so we need to definitely look at what happened during the task force. I was a member of the task force, and there were a lot of citizens who, they want the equity center, and I agree with having an equity center, but I also am in support of the sheriff who needs 500 beds because I am in favor of treating people humanely. And after what I've seen at the jail, we are not doing that. It is a travesty the way people are in boats, and the sheriff taught me about these boats, these plastic beds that sit on the floor, and there are lots and lots of people in these boats on the floor. And so we need to address that, but we also need to address the release of the formerly incarcerated and how they are put out onto the street. We need a new halfway house model. We do not need to send people back out into the same environment that created them, or should I say, where they came from before they were incarcerated. The county is mandated by the state to provide health and human services, and that is what we should do. We have the wraparound services that can stabilize, sustain, and make a person successful on the other side of incarceration. But we also have the services that can also help the homeless, because I do not agree with putting the homeless in jail. We need to use our pre-arrest diversion initiative, and I've worked with Moki for quite some time and pulled together meetings for months and months in 2019 with the Chief Judge of the Magistrate Court, Cassandra Kirk, the Solicitor General, the District Attorney, the Public Defender, the Sheriff, and so many others, our county manager and the county executive team, to address what is wrong in the pre-arrest diversion process. And one of the things that we found was that once the officer encounters the person on the street, what happens next? Where can they take that person other than jail to have them evaluated? And just yesterday, while walking with the Atlanta Downtown Neighborhood Association through downtown Atlanta, we came through Woodruff Park where the Walgreens is, and there were 3 officers trying to deal with one man who it was very apparent needed to be evaluated. So these are things that we also need to take into consideration as we think about the reuse of the Atlanta City Detention Center. The sheriff needs his 500 beds, but we also need beds, and we need that building to use for wraparound services. Together, we can all do this. We just need to get it done. And I just want to thank you, Councilmember Chairwoman Shepherd, because this phone call was very needed, and I think we need many more, and there are other people who need to be involved in this process. The sheriff, like you said, he is an elected official. He is responsible for the jail, and he needs to be in this conversation every time we have it, because what we do is going to impact him and is going to impact the people that are housed at his jail. Thank you all.
Thank you. We have been joined by another commissioner, Commissioner Abdur Rahman. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, but I know it's joined. Correct me. Would you please come forward and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Unfortunately, I've been sitting in a holding room since about 3:58, so I just wanted to make sure that you all know that I've been here waiting. Fortunately, on the other phone, I was able to listen in lecture mode, but I was not able to let you all know that I was here. But thank you. We got the glitch, whatever glitch it was, finally let me in. So I do appreciate that. I want to just basically echo what Commissioner Arrington and Commissioner Vice Chair Hall, and also I want to support the sheriff as well, because I was one of many people who sat down with him pre-election to figure out what the concerns were. I want us to be able to find something in harmony to move forward. We have been doing a lot of talking, and I think at this point, we're at the point that we really need to find a solution. So my role here today is just to be supportive and to let you all know that whatever we can do to make sure that there's humane treatment of the inmates, as well as offer some type of wraparound services. I don't think that, based on the conversations that I have had with my colleagues at the county level, that we're not in agreement of that, a happy medium. So I just want to go publicly to let the council members know that I am resolution oriented, and so whatever we can put forth that we can get everybody on the same page. I think we part of the issue, and I'm not pointing fingers. I think the time for pointing fingers is over. but part of the problem, that the reason that we're at this juncture now is because we have been doing a lot of talking and not any action. And so I'm here in the spirit of however way we can find a happy medium. I will be more than happy to be on board.
Thank you so much. Do I have any other colleagues who want to speak? I don't see no one is texting other than Ms. Hall. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I have some other questions.
Yes, Madam President.
Okay.
Madam,
is that you? Madam,
yes,
President Moore.
Yes. Well, I guess I am in understanding of all the comments that have come, and so I think what I would like to know, and I'm not sure who can give the answer, is, based on everything that's gone on and what we just heard, and certainly wanting to hear action too, what is the next steps and what action can be taken? What is needed to happen to move forward? I think we have talked this to death, and we now talk together, and so how do we move forward?
So one of the things that made very clear to me is, and actually when I talked to Mr. Pitt, and that's why I asked Mr. Labat a lot of questions, but his position was, we're going to either lease the jail or sell it to them, and that's it. So in terms of responding back, in terms of this back and forth, in terms of did we get a response from Mr. Pitt or there was in passe and all of that, it's quite obviously that the mayor has offered something. Mr. Pitt, and I don't know if the whole commission agreed with Mr. Pitt's position, but he told me the bottom line question verbally he said to me, either you're going to sell the jail to us or lease it to us, or you're not. And so this compromise in terms of making it something else apparently is something that he's not interested in. I think we will have to ask the commission. I heard someone say that their commission is different than ours, is that they have to also vote to take a position on this. But what I think I also heard, Ms. Moore, is that, hello? What I also heard, Ms. Moore, is two different things. Mr. Labat is also saying that he needs jail space. He's looking for jail space specifically. And what I'm also, I believe, hear him saying is that his space is not conducive to just a diversion program, that he needs jail space for the folks who are there in jail at this point until they can move through the system, whatever. And he said that could be 6 months based on COVID or other things, or it could be less. So where I am at this point is I'm listening. I'm saying we really have to come to a conclusion in terms of what we're going to do with the city. I do, but what I love about what I've heard thus far from commissioners is that this is a problem. As I've delved into this more, even with the mayor's office and so many other people, is that we have all of these programs that are already working on some of these issues from a social perspective, more so on Fulton County side than on our side, because again, as I heard someone say earlier, is that the county is responsible for the health and human services. That is their funding, that is up under their purview. We've said that a couple of times ourselves, but they were stated very clearly today that this is the purview of the county for health and human services. I heard Ms. Hall talk about what they're doing. There's also programs called the Diversion Community and Practice Group that I think is being run, and I know some folks from the city, and I've been asked now to be invited to those meetings that are actually looking into the depth of how do we deal with this. What I know as a council member is that this is something that we just can't say, well, we don't have anything to do with this. Number one is our citizens assume that we're responsible for all of this, which we're not. And the other thing is that we need to fix this. I agree with you. I agree with the commissioner who just spoke. We need to fix this, and I don't think we can do it in separation and silos. I think that we need to begin to talk more together, look at, for me, what my mission now as a public safety chair is to look at everything that's happening on the Fulton County side, what's happening on the city side. You all know I just introduced a paper of the Public Safety Commission to begin to look at things internally from our side, but also having Fulton County and everybody on that side to begin to have questions also. So But we can't. One of the things that was very clear to me from the mayor's office is there will be no negotiation today. What we have to do is decide if we want to collaborate. Mr. Bond, and I'm surprised if he hasn't. Is Mr. Bond on? I'm surprised he hasn't spoke today. One of the things in terms of this resolution is that if we couldn't come to a conclusion today, is that the next steps would be that we would actually come back as a working committee to begin to have much more in-depth conversations. What I'm hearing, quite obviously, from what I'm hearing, is that that's what we're going to have to do. But I don't think we can make a decision quickly today. I think that the decision that's been made on this resolution is, what are we going to do with ACDC? And that's something that we'll have to go back with the mayor and the council and then come back to Fulton County if we're going to say, yes, we're going to do this. I don't believe we should sell the jail to the county. I believe that we should lease it. That is my position. I think I've heard some other commissioners say lease it until we come to a conclusion. So, Ms. Moore, I'm not sure if we have a definitive answer today other than we need to probably set up another meeting to talk about this, interact with the mayor's office. And I would like to know if the county managers, I believe the county managers or the law department may be here to have some input from Fulton County. If there's anybody, Mr. Arrington, I don't know if you have anybody else on that side who want to talk. Or Mr. Johnson, if you want to talk from the mayor's office also.
Chair, I have a question. This is Councilmember Overstreet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do think that we're exactly where you said. We're at a place where we just need to make a decision, because the truth is we know that the letter was put out and it stated that we only had 150 beds that we were interested in leasing, and that they had a stipulation to them. And they've made it clear that the county has made it clear that that's not something that can be adhered to, because there are, no detainees that are just there for minor offenses. So I don't believe that anyone on this call right now is pro mass incarceration. I know I'm definitely not, and I know all of us so far that have spoken, and I don't think anyone on this call is pro mass incarceration. But we are all pro livable conditions for anyone, whether they have committed crimes or not. So I do believe that we need a solid answer. Is it a non-starter if, that we are not open to leasing the jail to the people that are serving harder crimes? That's the question at hand at this point. And we just need to know the answer to that. So is there anyone on the phone call today that can answer that question? Because that's where we are.
Ms. Overstreet, I think that's something that I don't think, Mr. Labat stated his position. I think because the city owns the jails, that's something that we're going to have to come back internally ourselves and talk about. We have to make the decision, are we going to allow 500 beds?
Okay, so who? That's my question then. So who is we? Is it only council members on the call today?
The commissioners are on here. They're giving their positions and we heard. But I've gotten clarity today, and specifically in terms of what is being asked, what I find. Can you use your phone until I go back and
I know, I'm sorry. It's loud. So what about the administration? Anyone from the administration on the call today that may be able to answer?
But Ms. Overstreet, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get that answer. I think at the end of the day, that's going to be left up to us as a council. The mayor has already stated her position that she wants the jail closed. She stated that what she wants it to be used for is possibly a diversion center or close the jail. My position, again, this is just me speaking, George Shepard, council member, is that I would love for the ACDC to become a conversion center until we can actually come back and figure this out. I think Mr. Arrington talked about that earlier. But what I also heard from Mr. Labat is that he needs 700 beds for his jail for folks. And so I don't think today that we can make a vote or take this is not for a vote today. This is for a discussion. It has to go back to us as a council to talk about that And then I also think that this is great because we can also begin to have more conversations with Fulton County Commissioners on our next steps in terms of a lot of different things that are going on. So I think this is an effective mission.
And I agree with what you said. I agree with all of that, actually. I just want us to, get to the action portion.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, do you want to speak to that? Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Councilman. I was just unmuted. One thing I would propose, no, I can't answer that particular question, but one thing I would absolutely propose, a letter of intent has been sent. What I would propose is that a red line version of that letter of intent be sent back so we have something in writing, because I think there are a number of interests that have been stated today. So if we can get a response back, a red line version would be appropriate, or if there's a means for a draft intergovernmental agreement to be sent back to the city. Obviously, the duly elected sheriff of the residents of Fulton County has a role to play in that, as well as the county commission, as well as the administration, and as well as councilmen, excuse me. So I think that would be a great next step so that we can actually have something in writing. And just as a point of clarity, one of the things that I said very early on in my conversation about response, my comment was that there has been no formal response to the letter of intent that was sent. So I would absolutely propose that we get a red line version of that so that we have a working document to work from so that all parties involved can have a more fruitful discussion and we can actually get to the next step.
That's a good answer. I mean, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So that's where we are. We're ready for a counter red line version, as you stated. I think that's a good place to be right now. Because that means that we're moving towards either, not doing this at all or figuring out how to get it done. So that's what I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the Fulton County side who has any input to this, Mr. Harrington? Marvin? Can you mute your phone if you're not talking?
Okay, this is Commissioner Khadijah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, a couple of points that I do want to make, and this just from a housekeeping perspective. It takes 4 votes for anything to get passed at the county level, and so I think sending a letter to the chair I wasn't able to see it, and I wasn't sure exactly what it was and what was sent to him until the 12th hour. So I think we are duplicitous when, we're looking for a counter offer or something in respect to what was sent when it was not sent to all of the county commissioners. And so I think that going forward, we need to make sure that all of the county commissioners, whatever is the bottom line of what the city is offering to do, that we have an opportunity to be able to know that outside of the chair. With all due respect, as the chair, I can't speak to, as far as him speaking with the mayor as to what point it may or may not have been a breakdown, but having not access to it and having a vote kind of undermined or for the lack of a better word, puts me in a stalemate position because I don't have the information put towards me as to what's the best offer or what you all actually want. And so we need to make sure moving forward that all of the county commissioners are made aware of what the city's position is. I know that before, when the county wanted to buy it, and there was a $40 million, at the agreed price in 2011, a year later it went to $85 million. And so if the city's hard-nosed position with the mayor and the city council is not to sell it, then we would have to know what would be best for our position to be able to move forward. So I guess what I'm saying, Madam Chair, is the communication has to be communicated to everybody with all due respect to the to our chair. As our vice chair said, we were not a part of that process. And so now it's almost you all have to kind of repeat some of the process because we were not a part of that. And it sounds to me, and this is just clearly my opinion, that it may have been a breakdown in that process. And so I think moving forward, if we can just make sure that whatever the hardline position, what you all are going to sell, whether it's a lease only, whether it's a lease temporarily in a condition to maybe sell later, I don't know. You all know that it needs to be communicated to all of the commission board members because it takes 4 votes to pass anything.
And I agree with what you're saying, but let me just talk about a couple things in terms of 2 forms of government. So up under the city of Atlanta, the mayor is, in terms of the charter, is actually negotiate in terms of jail cells. Now that does not mean that she has to say so that says, I am going to sell the jail, because if that was the case, we're going to close it, she would have closed it by now based on what she wants to do. She still has to get votes from the council members. So, but that's how we got to where we are now, because when she came and brought it to us, we said, wait a minute, let's look at a lot of different things before we make this decision. Now, over on your side, my question to you all is, on your side, is what I had to do as a chair of the public safety, after I realized I was saying things to Mr. Pitt, and he wasn't responding, and wasn't responding in terms of when I heard from other commissioners saying, well, we don't know anything about this. So what I did at that point was send everything to you all. That's how you all got letters from me and a resolution and all of that. And that's how we introduced the resolution, because I realized that on your side, it may not be the same as it is on the city side. So to that point, my question back to you is that even if we talk about negotiation, who on the commission side or the county side is going to communicate back and forth? When we talk about a red line versus or respond back to you, who on your side of the commission is going to do that red line version? Who would that be? Would that be Commissioner Pitt, or would that be the county manager? Who would that be?
Well, I can't speak for anyone else. I would say it would have to be all of us, because you're talking about 2 different forms of government, and we don't want to be in the same place that we are now, because of the fact that you were dealing with Pitts, and like I said, some kind of way the communication broke down. I don't know how or why, but I think if we're truly trying to move forward and come to a solution, it would be best to include all of the commissioners, all of them, not one point person.
Can I ask your law department? I think somebody from your law department is on the call. Can I ask them if they can answer that question for us?
Sure, go ahead.
Is somebody from the law department with the county? How does that work?
Well, it looks like we may not have Kate.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Hello.
Who's speaking?
This is Kay Burwell.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Can you answer that question?
The question is, who at Fulton County has the authority to speak with council members?
Well, and also, if we were talking about a red line, we just talked about possibly a red line version of a counter to what we offered, and we never got one. Who would have the authority on the county side to do that? Would that be Commissioner Pitt, or would that be and what the commissioners are saying is that this is not the actual authority of just one Commissioner Pitt, but it's the authority of everyone. So what's the protocol and the process, the legal process, in terms of how do you respond to a situation like this?
Well, the board acts as a group, and they act by voting in public. It takes 4 out of the 7 to pass something. And so a majority of the Board of Commissioners would have to be in favor of something.
Who negotiates this process? Is it Commissioner Pitt or would it be the county manager who does the negotiations? Who negotiates between the two in terms of this particular scenario? Who will be doing the negotiations?
Well, that's not really a legal question about who you would negotiate with. Whoever the Board of Commissioners would determine that they wanted to be in charge of this project is who you would negotiate with.
Well, my question is, as we said before, Commissioner Pitts and Mayor Bottom have been interacting in terms of saying, this is what we propose, this is what we don't propose, this is what I would like to have, and what's back and forth. That's what we're hearing through this whole process for the last 2 or 3 months. So the mayor has basically given us information, said, here's what I propose. Mr. Pitts has come back and she said that this is in passing. So my question again is that Mr. Pitts' authority to negotiate with the mayor, or who else would it be if it's not Mr. Pitts? Because I hear the commission folks saying that it's someone else.
Madam Chair, this is Council President Moore. Please don't forget that you heard from the sheriff himself saying that he had the authority, it was in his purview to do negotiations related to the jail, which I assume he would do it, and then bring it before the Board of Commissioners for them to consider. So you may want to ask him. That's what I heard him say earlier.
I'm asking the law department over there if that's correct, Ms. Moore. That's all I'm asking is that correct?
This is Vice Chair Hall. Can you hear me? This is Vice Chair Hall. Can you hear me? Okay, so the bottom line is we have to have 4 votes to do anything. The chairman does not speak for the other commissioners. We don't have the same form of government as the city of Atlanta. You have to send everything to all of the commissioners because it takes 4 votes to pass anything. And Commissioner Abdul Rahman was correct in everything that she said, and Kay confirmed that. Chairman Pitts does not speak for the Board of Commissioners. Unless 4 of us vote and say that he speaks for us, he does not.
So when the mayor is sending a letter, and she sends it to Rob Pitts, should she be sending it to everybody on the board as opposed to Mr. Pitts as the commissioner?
Yes, and that's what Commissioner Abdul Rahman was trying to communicate, that none of us received that letter. And so, therefore, none of us had any idea of the communications that were happening between the chair and the mayor. And unfortunately, that was wasted communication because we should have known and we should have had an opportunity to provide our input into what's happening, because it's going to take 4 votes to pass anything through the Board of Commissioners. And so if anyone has that letter, I would love to see it so that I even know what we're talking about, because as of today, I have still not seen the letter between the mayor and the chairman of the Board of Commissioners. We were told about it, but I have never seen it. And I do think I just heard Commissioner Abdul Rahman say that she hasn't seen it either. However, Chairwoman Shepherd, I did receive all of the documents that you sent us, and I appreciate that.
Okay. I believe I have.
Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm sorry, who's speaking?
This is Commissioner Ellis.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, I think the one thing that all of our commissioners and our sheriff are in agreement on is that we've got a need for 500 beds, and we'd like to procure them in some form or fashion from you all, either a short-term lease or a longer-term lease. And I guess really that's, as I'm listening to this, I mean, versus us sending, and we've got an immediate need, and versus us sending red line versions of this, that, and the other, it's a fairly straightforward ask. Is the city willing to entertain some form of lease of 500 beds of the facility for general prisoner usage?
Okay.
And I mean, I think that's really to sum up where we're all at, right? I mean, that's what our ask is right now. I mean, there are a lot of forward things that could play and could go past that, right? But that's our immediate need right now and our immediate ask.
And Councilwoman Shepherd, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I heard you calling me earlier, but for some reason I couldn't get unmuted. And I think as far as Commissioner Ellis is right, and I'm with Commissioner Hall and Officer Rockman are also right. But what I would say to you is, once we vote on something, then the chair and the county manager, along with the county attorney, would be responsible for taking care of final negotiations and resolutions. The board would just say, okay, we approve the lease or the purchase of 500 beds or the entire facility, and then once we do that, we empower the manager and the county attorney to negotiate on our behalf, and the chair would be responsible for signing off on that. So, at our next meeting, I don't know, it also, I guess, depends on the timing of when you all's next meeting is and when you can get something back to us. But our meetings are on the first and third Wednesday of each month. And so we could, approve the lease or purchase or, contribution to an equity center at our next meeting if that were before us.
Okay. So where we are now is the mayor has been in office.
Hello, Madam Chair. This is Sheriff Labatt. I would like, and I, as a point of clarification, I need our county attorney to opine. If it involves the sale of the facility, it is the board's purview. If it involves detainees, whether being in a program, being housed anywhere else, it falls solely under the purview of the sheriff. At that point, if we were to work out a lease for detainees, I would approach the board and ask for the additional funding. We have a magnificent board. I believe everybody's on the same page, but those two separate divisions of constitutional authority need to be clear. When it comes down to sale, purchase, it falls on the board in its entirety as the law department has described. When it comes to distribution, when it comes to housing, care, and custody of any detainees and where they will be, it falls under the constitutional authority of the sheriff of the county. So there are two separate questions that need to be opined on to provide some clarity with respect to the law department.
Yes, and it's basically, if you all are going to lease it to us, the sheriff is in charge. If you think talking about a sale, then it's going to be the commission.
So if it's a lease, it's the sheriff. If it's a sale, it's the commission. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
So, what I will
wait, that's not correct. That's not correct. If we're doing a lease for the whole building for the sheriff, then it's the sheriff. But if we're doing a lease and we're going to do an equity center and the sheriff is going to have some housing in there, then that's two different things.
Madam Chair, I agree with that.
Point of order. I think what we're talking about, and this is my opinion, is Mr. Labatt, you may need to go to your commissioners and tell them this is what I'm asking for. We need to get clarity.
It doesn't work that way. What happens as a constitutional office, if I am going to house detainees anywhere under my purview, I don't have to ask the board for anything except the funding if it exceeds my budget. And so what has happened in the past is the sheriff has moved individuals and created these memorandums of understanding and then approached the board about funding. Commissioner Hall is absolutely correct. If there are other county opportunities, whether it be pre-arrest diversion or other programs outside the purview of the sheriff's office, then that's a larger conversation. So there needs to be, first, and I would suggest a letter of intent that, as you heard, because everybody wants to work in collaboration, a letter of intent sent to the sheriff's office as well as the Board of Commissioners that we can then simply, if somebody wants to be official about it. I mean, Commissioner Ellis was correct. I think we're all in the same place. But with those two divisions of authority, there are two different conversations to be had. And so with that, I know you want to hear from the law department, but I've been working with the law department on this very subject because many of the commissioners, as they've stated, are absolutely correct in their authority, but want to make sure that, and I'll give you a prime example. We could come up with all the programs in the world, but as the sheriff, if I don't move the detainees, if I don't negotiate how they will be housed, how they will be fed, how they will be transported, it does not fall on the Board of Commissioners to do any of that. So we have to move to that point. They're two separate conversations, and now the lease of the purchase of the building, absolutely, because the board has all of the land in the county, and we have to look at it from a different lens. And so to that end, I am certainly willing and ready to work with both our board as well as City Council and the mayor and her administration to figure out what's best. But the bottom line is, notwithstanding the conversation around mass incarceration, because it is not that. It is individuals that are arrested and currently sleeping on the floor. I have a duty and we have a moral compass in society to treat the least of these better than we have been doing. And so that's where I land on the topic, and I appreciate it. I'm going to allow others, and thank you, Madam Chair, for your leadership.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Who's speaking, please?
This Councilmember Bond, I have a point of order. I'd like to make a statement. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the Board of Commissioners. Thank you, our esteemed Sheriff, for your comments and being here today. We already have, the point of order is that we already lined out a path of action to accomplish these negotiations. And the resolution that we passed and that provided for this work session, it also provides that if there has been no resolve of the, assumed negotiations between the mayor, the sheriff, and the Board of Commissioners by midnight, May 31st, that a committee representing both governments would be automatically created. It calls for, I believe, 3 members of the council, appointment by the council president, appointment by the mayor, appointment by the court, appointment by the sheriff, and 3 appointees from the Board of Commissioners. It's only 3 because we did not want to trigger a quorum of the commission to do the negotiation. And so all that would need to, I believe that we were trying to get someone on the Board of Commissioners to do a duplicate resolution before the board. And that could be accomplished, on Wednesday. That's the 1st, I believe, of June. And then we can just begin to negotiate these finer points through the representative committee. So whatever it is, whether it's, lease or sale or what have you, that committee could do so and come back in 30 days or so, I believe. And so there's already a process on the city side. We just need a sponsor on the commission side, to ratify our action over there. And then the negotiations can begin. And so the issue of the letter or the communication, all of that can be handled by that committee. And then we can move on and resolve it, because this is a human crisis. That we have individuals on the floor over there, so we need to act expeditiously to get the sheriff what he needs.
So if I can, Councilmember Bond, thank you for that, and Chairwoman Shepherd. We actually have 4 board members now. We could vote right now to adopt that agenda or to empower the sheriff and county manager to go ahead and to negotiate, we could call a vote right now. We've got 4 members, and we've announced this as a meeting. So I believe that we could take action today. In fact, this is a special call board meeting, as far as I understand.
Well, if that's possible, Mr. Arrington, I would implore the board to do so, and would ask our chair and our staff, Ms. Lindo, to forward you all the resolution she considered. If that's something that you four can do and will do, I think that would be great.
I mean, I can make a motion.
Wait, Vice Chair Hall. When we agreed on the Board of Commissioners attending this meeting, we were immediately told that there were 2 commissioners that would be out of town and unable to attend this meeting. And we said that we would not vote on anything, but we would come to the table and have discussions in the absence of those other commissioners. So I really don't think it would be appropriate for us to move forward on a vote without having the full Board of Commissioners present. And that's just my thoughts on what we've discussed previously.
Madam County Attorney, is this a special call Board of Commissioners meeting or no?
This is a work session. This is not a board meeting for us. This is not this is a work session. This is not a board meeting for us.
I'm sorry. I was trying to ask the Kay Burrell, the county attorney, from my side. I understand it's a work session for you all, but I thought we as the county called a special call board meeting.
I don't believe that the clerk noticed it as a special called meeting. Let me see. I don't her, but let me see.
How can we have 4 board members present then?
Good evening, this is Tanya.
Oh, are you there, Tanya? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We did advertise.
Okay. Well, it's noticed as a special called meeting. But yes, you can take action if you would at any other called meeting.
Can I say this is Commissioner Khadijah? Out of fairness to Commissioner Hausman and Chairman Pitt, we did have a conversation about this, and she was very active that as long as there were no votes being taken, so I understand what you're saying, Aaron, and I don't have any problem supporting it, but I would be a little concerned in agreeing that there would be no vote taken and then we turn around and do a vote.
Well, it's a special call meeting, so the matter is before us. We can either vote on it or not, but I don't remember that conversation. I didn't agree not to vote at any meeting. I understand what you guys are saying, and, I don't have any control over how you vote, but I'm going to make a motion that we have our county attorney and county manager negotiate with the city of Atlanta, because the deadline was May 31st. So us meeting on June 2nd is past the deadline. So, it'll at least give us some time between now and the 31st to try to actually resolve this matter. Is there a second? I guess not. So I guess we'll have to wait till June 2nd.
So what you're saying then is you will wait till June 2nd, then you all would actually talk about it at your commission meeting and take a vote and then bring that back to us as a council.
But we have to have something to, yes. I guess we could have an agenda item to, authorize the county manager and county attorney to negotiate a deal with the mayor. The chair usually just signs off. The chair has the power to call meetings and the responsibility of signing any of the contracts. But we typically delegate the negotiation of those deals with the county attorney and the county manager's office.
Hey, Commissioner Harrington?
Okay. Commissioner Harrington, so we passed a resolution that creates this committee. Can we just forward you the resolution and perhaps you commissioners consider that, and that'll put that'll ratify what we've done on your side, and then they can just automatically start meeting, because this committee comes into fruition at midnight on May the 31st.
This is Vice Chair Hall. This is Vice Chair Hall. I'm sorry. I just want to clarify something about our board meeting. If we don't get the agenda item into the clerk by Friday before noon, it will not be on the June 2nd Board of Commissioners agenda. So we do have a deadline to meet in order to get something on the agenda for the next meeting.
Well, we can send the resolution over to you right now.
Mr. Bond, that resolution has been sent to every commissioner. They have that resolution already, along with Mr. Pitt. I can get Ms. Lindo to send it to y'all county managers if y'all want to, but I sent as an attachment the resolution to every commissioner when I sent out my request. Has anybody read it?
Yes, I saw it and I read it, yes.
So the resolution is already there.
So does that suffice? Making this, if I guess someone would need to put it on the agenda then, right, Vice Chair?
This is Vice Chair Hall. We did receive it, but looking at the language, it would probably need to be edited to reflect the county if we're going to do a resolution from the county side.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You would take that resolution, Ms. Hall, you would take that resolution and then put it in your format. Just take that resolution and then just say that as a part of this, we want to negotiate with the city in terms of, you can do your own wordsmithing on it, but just take that resolution as a part of that. And so I don't know how my colleagues do it, but I always send resolutions directly to our county attorney for any type of edits and vetting to make sure that everything is legal and ethical. And it does take a little bit of time because our county attorney's office is swamped, and I've always heard that they don't have enough staff for the workload that they receive. So that being said, it is Thursday, and it is 5:34 p.m., and we have to have resolutions into the clerk's office to the BOC by Friday afternoon in order for it to be on the Wednesday agenda. I just want to put things into perspective for everyone.
Would this not come up on our executive session agenda? And if so, we maybe could avoid that deadline because the executive session items aren't published, and so we may be able to get around that. But I mean, to some extent, we're approving putting 3 people on there. Like we already know that we need the beds. It's really we need to know from City Council: are y'all gonna rent us beds, or are y'all gonna rent us the whole building? I mean, because beggars can't be choosy. Right? At this point, we'll take whatever we can get. And so, yes, we need the space. What we need to know from you all is: are y'all going to do it on a per bed basis, which would leave it with the sheriff, or are y'all going to rent us the entire facility where we provide wraparound services, which would bring the commission in? What is the offer is what we really need to know. But I don't know that we need to have any more meetings. I don't know that we need to have any more meetings.
Mr. Harrington, I'm going to let excuse me. I would like to have Mr. Johnson from the mayor's office to speak at this point. He can bring some resolution to this.
Well, I never released the floor, and I hadn't released the floor for when I was allowed to speak earlier.
Okay, well, I'm gonna allow you to speak for another moment, Madam, Mr. Bond, but I'm gonna also recognize the mayor's office because they're asking to speak also.
No, I don't have any problem with the mayor's office speaking, but I just wanted to answer the question that Commissioner Anderson raised. And the point of the group that we created was to hash out those details, was to have that conversation, and to do so under a prescribed period of time, given the, human emergency that is going on over at Rice Street. And so we wanted to bring all of those parties to the table to make that determination. And that's why we were asking you to introduce a similar resolution in your format, on your side of the ball.
So, Kay, can you make that happen? And do you suggest that we do it as part of executive session or outside of executive session?
I don't think it's an executive session item.
Okay.
It is
so,
not.
Tanya, can you add that to the agenda? And, Kay, can you work on the resolution?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, I can have it added.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, Mr.
Sorry?
Johnson. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Erickson.
No, I was just saying, so it sounds like it'll be on our agenda and we'll have a resolution.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Chairwoman Shepherd, thank you. And so, as I previously stated, obviously this isn't, the forum for a public negotiation, if you will. There's a process in place which has been very eloquently outlined by our counterparts from the county. So we certainly appreciate that. And as I stated before, and I believe the county attorney, Ms. Hickson, or Ms. Frazier, managing deputy attorney, is on the call, and she can certainly respond and give a bit more clarity. But I think having just given the spirit of what we're talking about, I think we're all in lockstep. Getting a red line version of that letter of intent back, whatever the process is, the county will follow, will respond appropriately, and also those that we need to send a more formal document to, we can certainly do that from our end. But I would certainly like to turn the floor over to the law department, and they can certainly opine and provide some additional guidance and insight.
Thank you. Is that Ms. Robinson?
No, Madam Chair, this is Alicia Frazier, Managing Deputy City Attorney. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I have been listening to the comments, and thank you, Deputy COO Johnson, for the deferral, because I wanted to have an opportunity to speak, because there is a question that is on the floor as to what is the city's position. And I wanted to provide to our members of council that we should not respond to that request that is on the floor. As you know, the resolution that Councilman Bond referred to says that if the mayor and the county had not reached terms, that then this group that the resolution identified would then be empowered to conduct negotiations. But in fact, there has been a offer in writing by the city, from the mayor to the chair of the county commission. It is very much a non sequitur to say that because all of the commissioners did not receive the letter that they cannot respond. The response, any negotiations, when you're talking about anything of this magnitude, needs to be in writing and should not be oral. The administration continues to await the written response from the county. However, the county, the chair of that commission decides he wants to disseminate that to his colleagues so that they can vote, that is all well and good. But as it relates to answering the question that is on the table by Commissioner Erickson, I would advise the council members not to respond to that request, because there is already an offer in writing to the county. They can disseminate that or figure out their processes of how they disseminate those offers, and they can consider them. But this is not the forum, nor do I advise you to respond in negotiating in that way.
Comment.
Madam Chair, may I speak?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the beautiful things about having esteemed and intelligent and thoughtful legal representation is that they offer you their best advice. And one of the beautiful things about being elected and being an individual who might employ a lawyer or have a lawyer in their employ, you are not obligated to accept that advice. And I would encourage us here on this call, county commissioners, Atlanta City Council members, to deal with this, and the sheriff to deal with this as elected peers. We have a process that's set out in place. There may be an offer on the table. The resolution is specific. If they haven't come to terms, even though there might be an offer extended, if they haven't come to terms by midnight on the 31st, they haven't come to terms. And that we will have a committee beyond that date to deal with the issues. And so I would encourage us to take that path, encourage the county commissioners to consider the resolution that Commissioner Arrington has requested that his law department draft. And from that point, if the county has not responded by midnight, May 31st, in some way, shape, or form, that we would expect that we would have a group as set forth in the resolution to then begin to peer-to-peer negotiate, as has already been passed by the council, hopefully, if necessary, passed by the county commission, so we can get these people, these human beings, off the floor. And if there are other areas of growth and consideration, which I think are many. I mean, the Fulton County has the need for a new public safety training academy. The city of Atlanta has that same need. 2/3 of the county is the city of Atlanta. Third, the same tax base. We should be looking at not just the jail facility, but for other areas of partnership that we can save our taxpayers money and achieve our common goals. And so there's room and plenty of room and opportunity for that. I think we need to keep the course that we're on. It'd be great if the county can respond by midnight, May 31st, but that all but seems unlikely. So I hope that we would take the course that we had just agreed upon.
Well, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Bond, because I think that on this occasion you actually did take my advice, and I appreciate you taking the advice from your esteemed counsel. That is exactly what I am advising the council to not do, is to not respond to the offer that was made on the table today, because you guys did not advertise this as a meeting. It is a work session. You cannot take any action, but you have clarified the point that I was making to you, that if the county makes a decision that they do not want to respond to the mayor's letter, which they have had for some time, that is fine. And then on the 31st or on June 1st, then the actions, they can take whatever actions in the resolution that the council has previously passed can go into play. But my only point was to advise you not to respond to the request of what is the city going to do, because that is not appropriate, because this meeting was not advertised as a meeting that you would be taking a vote in.
Thank you so much.
What is on the table? Hello?
one that you put on the table.
No, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm asking. Can you restate what the mayor's current offer is, so that we'll know what that is?
No, sir. I will leave that to your colleagues to because that was provided, as you do in any organization, provided to the lead, and then if they don't want to disseminate it, that's up to them.
Councilwoman Shepherd or Councilmember Bond, can either of you express what the current offer is? I understand she's advised you not to respond to my question, my previous question, which was what is the city offering? But somebody ought to be able to at least tell me what the mayor's offer was, the existing offer.
Ms. Lindo,
Commissioner Arrington, this is Vice Chair Hall. I did ask earlier for a copy of the letter from the mayor to the chair because, as Commissioner Abdul Rahman and I had stated earlier, we have not seen it, so we don't know what the negotiation was between the two of them. And that leaves us at this point where you're asking what are the negotiations.
Yeah, I was just asking, what did the mayor put in her letter? What is it that she offered?
Well, Deputy COO Johnson said that he would get that letter to all of you. Is that not correct, Deputy?
Yes, Ms. Fraser, that is correct. We will send it in writing.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
I also like to say, Mr. Bond, in terms of going forth with our deadline of the 31st, even in terms of having a meeting, I want you to also understand that that committee is formed. There's been no appointments to that committee or anything, so it's going to probably take several weeks before we can get that committee up and running. So when we talk about expedition and time, we think about that also, because that committee has not been formed yet.
Well, there's a piece of legislation that actually held in the Public Safety Committee that we can call up on the 7th, and we can actually make our appointment on that date.
That's fine, but you said that, again, no conclusion. The negotiations will be up by May 31st. We're past our May 31st deadline. That is what I'm saying to you, Mr. Bond. I'm also saying, let me finish. So what I'm also saying is, in terms of that point, is that once we send the letter over to the commission, they can look at it, they can respond, we can talk back and forth, and we don't have our board meeting, our council meeting until the 7th, so we have time to really continue to have this discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So where are we? So Mr. Johnson will send a letter to you all. There's also a letter that Mr. Pitts had responded back to the mayor that you all should probably also see, so that you all have all the facts. And so we can send all that over to the commission so that they can see all of that. And then from there, I'm hoping that maybe you all will do a resolution. Our next council meeting is on the 7th. And then, but we go to committee on the 14th. And so we have time. However, you all need to just get back with us and let us know.
Kay, will you also make sure that we do our appointments on the 2nd as part of the resolution or as part of that meeting?
Yeah, I'll handle that.
Okay. We'll send the legislation over. We'll send the letters over. Everything we need to send over. So we'll have that. Okay.
Chairwoman Shepherd, this is Vice Chair Hall. Sheriff Labatt would like to speak. He said he's tried to unmute.
Let's all unmute Mr. Labatt. I'm sorry, I was talking. I didn't look at my phone. I apologize.
No, thank you, and thank you, everybody. In the spirit of clarification, I could ask the county law department and city law department to opine on the following. If there was a letter of intent sent to Chairman Pitt and the context of the letter does not constitutionally qualify the board, i.e. the 150-bed space for individuals incarcerated in the Fulton County Jail and under my purview, does that not constitute improper directional letter, right? So if that is the case, then there's no expectations, as the city attorney mentioned, of dissemination to me. So we need to clarify that, and the resolution that Mr. Bond put forth, I think, is absolutely outstanding and is the pathway forward, but it does not start the clock on the letter of intent sent to the mayor, or sent from the mayor to the chairman of the Board of Commissioners if the body of the letter constitutes an obligation that I have to fulfill. So that said, I would like a copy of the letter in its original state sent from the mayor's administration as well, so that we can understand the purview and the context of the actual letter. So I think the county attorney, if I could get her to opine on that piece so that we can properly move forward, and there may need to be another letter of intent sent that further clarifies the position with respect to the Board of Commissioners. I don't know, because I only came upon the letter via a leak in the media, as well as many of our elected constituents have. So again, I'd like to formally ask for that clarification as well.
I'll certainly look at that, but I can't opine on something that I haven't seen.
I'm not sure who that was, but thank you.
I think that was the lawyer from the county. Thank you.
Yes, that was Kay Burrow from the county attorney's office. That's the county attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I think Mr. Dickens wants to ask a question. Is this Mr. Dickens?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, I've been trying to speak for 30 minutes, but I guess that someone had muted all of the lines except for a few. At the risk of kind of negotiating out in the open, but I think with all of us being on this call and it seemed like we were rolling in the same direction, I wanted to get a lot of stuff that we've been talking about has been procedural, and that's necessary. But I did want to kind of get a recap, a reset. I've been on the call for an hour and a half about, we're talking about a certain number of beds. I've heard 500, I've heard 150, I've heard for 18 months, I've heard 12 months. I've heard buying the jail, which I don't think is on the table. I've heard leasing out the whole jail, which I don't necessarily think is on the table, but having a portion of certain number of inmates go from Fulton County to the city. You guys have to, the county has described the need, the sheriff has described how much of a need, and then a cost per inmate or a cost per, for this transfer of inmates to our facility. And so I just wanted to, we've had tougher negotiations before, but I think that this is more so, we talked a lot about procedural stuff, but, duration of time that's needed. What are the steps that's going to take place on the court side to relieve pressure on the county jail so that you don't have this many inmates untried, unadjudicated? Just some of those basic elements. I'd like to ask the sheriff first what his thoughts are about his need and the duration of time and general consideration for cost. And then, and then who else is going to be involved in this equation? Because the city's not trying to have this happen forever, and the county doesn't want it to happen forever. And so the relief valve is, that people got to get adjudicated faster. And I know we're coming out of the pandemic, so I kind of want to just stay on that point for a little while for my clarification, if you will. So I'd like to hear from the sheriff and then maybe some other individuals in the law department.
So I'm not sure if I'm.
You're on.
Okay. So first of all, thank you, council member. We are, and I've said this a couple of times, and hopefully I didn't overstate it. But my original goal was at least 500 bed spaces. Obviously, any purchase is on a larger scale. I understand, having been part of the conversation for quite some time, but our immediate need is for 500 beds, potentially in a lease with a leased opportunity. But there are some things that are absolutely productive in this space. I've also said in some instances we will help the city run what it is currently running now, and so maybe there's cost reduction in that lease program. The other piece that I mentioned earlier is I think we start anywhere from 6 months to a year with a lease, unless there are plans, which I have not seen, to completely renovate all 571 square feet of the building with 571,000 square feet, let me correct that, of the building immediately. And to that, I've not seen plans for that from that perspective. But to be able to lease the beds for 6 months to a year certainly puts us on a more solid footing. And to answer your question, I have to give kudos to the county manager and his team and Alderman Adams with respect to really putting a COVID relief court plan in place. So we are actively engaged in working on what that looks like. That includes increasing the number of judges, whether on a temporary basis or given the authority to hire senior judges, whatever that looks like, to really be engaged on reducing the overall court workload. So there is a draft plan in place. I would have to ask the county manager to reach out to your office or any of your offices, as well as the Board of Commissioners. I know I don't want to be premature. They are going to present it to the board because it does require funding, most of which I believe they worked out. But it does have a true impact on the number of cases that we have pending. And so maybe this becomes a 6-month program, or maybe up to a year. But it all begins and ends in the same place, and that is, are we able to lease the 500 bed space? Probably a slip, I apologize. 500 beds from that perspective. And again, I am actively having conversations with our other local sheriffs about the potential to lease additional bed spaces in their facilities. So it's not unusual, as you know, Councilmember Dickens, we have leased space as a Fulton County Sheriff from the Atlanta Department of Corrections years ago, and so the opportunity is there. So again, I hopefully that answers the question pretty directly, but we're just in that space where we need, and I appreciate it. I won't go back on mute.
No, that's a perfect explanation. That's clear. I get it. And definitely, as you address the court hiring of judges and the plan as well, please send that to every council member and of course, the mayor's office and also the county commissioners, so that if we set a time of 6 months, but we don't get started on the judge part of this and the court part of this till 3 months in, we may be at 12 months before we know it. So thank you for that. That's a clear explanation. I know what I feel about the matter and what we need to do on our end. It sounds like some procedural stuff on you guys' end, on the county, related to, who calls the play on this, and to negotiate with us on the cost associated with this inmate housing at our facility. So I got it. Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd, for having this work session and running a great meeting. A lot of moving parts, and I applaud you for managing all of these elected officials, county managers, council members, and attorneys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. So let me figure out where we are now. So we're at a point where, quite obviously, even in terms of our resolution, Mr. Bond, and as I was saying earlier, we even in terms of if we don't get this negotiated by the 31st, which obviously we won't, we will come back and begin to talk about populating this task force, this committee, to begin to do some work. In the meantime, I think that on the county side, they have to actually go back and either do the resolution or have a discussion internally. And I'm going to ask, I don't know who does what, how, what, when, but I think we should, you all, just like y'all asked us to send everything to you all, you should send everything to us as a council also, so we know as a part of the negotiation that we also know what's going on. What I will do is I will check in with the county and everyone by next week after Memorial Day to see where we are. I will listen in on your meeting on Wednesday. I'll make sure someone is watching and monitoring on Wednesday to see where y'all are. I don't know what y'all going to do with the resolution. I heard our law department say we should not act on it. Again, we may have to go. I'll also be talking to the mayor's office and our law department to talk about our next steps also. So I heard a lot today. I think it was productive. I think we at least everybody knows what's out there. I hope this is the beginning of more conversations to resolve not just this jail thing, but how do we do reforms in the city of Atlanta and Fulton County collaboratively, because the issues are so much bigger than just the jail. And I think here's our opportunity to get this right. We have been talking for years, and some people point at Fulton County, some people point at us. Here is the opportunity for us to really begin to talk about how we're going to fix this. So I'm hoping that as we start this conversation, we can really begin to work together to figure out how we can make all of this work. I want to thank you all for coming. I'll be back in contact in terms of our next step. Does anyone have any other questions for me? If not, I thank everybody. You all have a good evening.
Great meeting, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.